Welcome, golfers and friends. This is the Science of Better Golf community, and excited to have you here because this is a very a special guest I have today in webinar with Hugh Marr, friend, coach, mentor. What else can I call you? Confidant, maybe.
Just
Anything
to
else?
just keep going.
Friend. Yeah.
Political punching bag.
So Hugh, we have Hugh today. So I have questions for Hugh from the group, and Hugh's going to give you your answers. You're going to hear me shut up for once and get Hugh's opinion. But just a quick, brief introduction to Hugh. Is Hugh's been a mentor to me for coaching, and I love how he views it. And now went from I'll let you explain it, but from European PGA Tour coach to focusing more on bringing up coaching to level up coaching throughout the, I guess, world to
Mm.
bring the coaching level up better. So I'll let Hugh finish. Hugh, kind of brief intro, if you don't mind, about who you are, where you're at, and then we'll get into looking at some swings and helping golfers out.
Well, native Scot, and I live in London now. I have done for 25 years. As a coach, I basically started coaching on tour at, I'm going to say 2008, 2009, maybe a little bit earlier, but that's when it became a full-time job for me. And coach guys on PGA Tour, DP World Tour, I guess the players I worked with had a reasonable amount of success. I was able to earn a living from it at least.
Yeah.
And then COVID kicked in, and that basically became a thoroughly miserable experience for me. Traveling in Europe during COVID was literally hellish. And at that time, I was starting to think about what I guess the next steps in my career would be. And I've always had a passion for helping other coaches. I've always had a passion for developing the game. And it just felt like the next natural step for me was to become someone that worried about coaching coaches rather than coaching tour players. And I'm delighted to say that it's been a huge success, but it's also, I think, from a personal perspective, been even more important because it's meant that I get to meet guys like you, coaches from all over the world who become friends, who become people that trust me to help them with their career. And it's a much bigger privilege working with the people coaching golf than it is working with the best players in the world. Very
That's
different,
neat.
very different way of earning a living, but it's certainly it means an awful lot more to me than working with tour pros ever did.
Are you surprised a bit since you've done this about how many coaches have come to you for help? And did you think there would maybe just are you surprised the level of how many coaches are coming to you for help to become better coaches or
Yeah,
not?
no,
Yeah.
very surprised. I mean, it's hugely encouraging to know that there are an awful lot of coaches out there who want to get better. And up until me arriving on the scene, they didn't necessarily have anywhere to go to become a better coach. There's lots of certifications available online that might increase your knowledge or your understanding of the technicalities of the golf swing. But
Mhm.
ultimately, the ability to put that knowledge and understanding in the hands of a student is the art of coaching. And it's been a fascinating journey. I didn't think that it would grow into something that's been that's this big this quickly.
Yeah.
I think that it would ever become something that I guess I developed a reputation for. And sure, the reputation or the time spent on tour working with the players I did put me in a position where I guess I've got the reputation to be able to command the attention of coaches. But there are tons of coaches like you, Erik. There's tons of coaches out there who want to do a better job, who are passionate about doing a better job. And finally, they've got somewhere to turn.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I don't know how many certifications have gotten in the past and how good are they? I mean, yeah, it's knowledge, but to me, the biggest thing about golf is, you have to want to continually to get better as coaches. It's a learning environment daily. I feel like, at least for me, striving to get better as a coach. I always feel every time I drive home after work, I'm always going through my lessons, thinking about what could I have done better, what could have been different. And maybe it's not X's and O's. And this is where I think, as you get along, right, maybe it's not X's and O's, it's how you describe it. And the better you get, I think you can you can describe things better, or you're able to deal with different people different. But I would say I'll boost your ego up a little bit here, but for you, I don't think it's just your European tour coach stuff. I think that people have been attracted to how you coach, your processes, and your success with it too. Just with the average Joe, it doesn't have to be just with the pro. So I think it's neat that people have come to you in ways to get better, because everybody should want coaching to get better and not be scared of it. Like I think people in the past used to build up moats around their teaching. They had a secret or something that they didn't want to let out, but we all know not true. So let's all get better, or everybody should get better. And
Yeah,
what is it? 3% of people take lessons, something like that.
yeah. I mean, I wish it was that high.
Is it
In
lower than
fact,
three? Jeez.
there's some staggering data out there that doesn't reflect well in our profession, and
Yeah.
I think that we, as golf coaches, quite rightly point out that if our job is improving players, then if we're not improving ourselves, then we're effectively a charlatan.
Yeah.
If I, as a golf coach, just purely from my morals and ethics, I guess that if I'm
Mhm.
coaching total junk, I want to know it's total junk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's not particularly comfortable finding out that the principles that you hold dear as a coach aren't necessarily correct, but it's
Right.
absolutely necessary. If you were a doctor and you were prescribing the wrong medicine, you'd probably want to know that you're prescribing the wrong medicine. This is no different.
It is interesting how people want to hang on to that. And I think they don't want to deal with that. It's not easy to know that maybe 10 years ago or whatever it was that you're teaching some stuff that wasn't right. It's kind of,
Oh,
I
right.
almost get the heebie-jeebies sometimes thinking about it.
Yeah, well, I'm the same. You just think back to some of the junk you've taught over the years,
Uh, yeah.
and it I, I guess that I think that one of the characteristics I see with good or great coaches is that they're actually they own the fact that they didn't give great golf lessons or they didn't have great knowledge or understanding, but they're all driven to want to improve that. They're all driven to want to know
Yeah.
that what they are doing is effective, is
And
mechanically
I,
correct.
yeah. And I think the key to that is that person today, you or whatever, me, like what we were saying though back then, it wasn't, we were trying as hard as we could back then too. We didn't have data, we didn't have the science to prove it. So it wasn't just we were throwing stuff around. Now we're serious.
Yeah,
We're same people now. It's just
I
we
think
have better science and
I think
stuff to
that's a
know.
I think that's a really good point. And I mean, I said I coached on tour for the better part of 15, well, 18 years, and the 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 particularly difficult players I coach would 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 reprimand me if I introduced something new to the occasion that worked, and they would say, "Well, why didn't you tell me that 6 months ago?"
Oh yeah,
Oh, well,
right.
man, I didn't know it. But you're trying to get better, so am I.
Yeah.
So it's a necessary it's a necessary part of what we do.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Okay, so awesome. So this is all about helping out the golfers that are part of this community, and we're gonna start off with somebody who sent their golf swing in. This is Thomas Tootin, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what he wrote in here. And we're going to use the OnForm app, which I want to say OnForm is sponsoring this podcast, this podcast and the Science of Better Golf. So Thomas said he tends to miss with a hook or overdraw or a block right. He thinks his path is consistently 2 to 4 degrees in and out, but he's wondering if something you see in my setup is causing this to happen naturally, or is it just swing related? He did notice this weekend while playing that he's really uncomfortable or overthinking part of his setup. He tends to notice that my front hand grip gets overly strong, and then I compensate the rest of my setup around it. That's Thomas's thoughts there.
Okay, so if the ball's moving left and crossing the target line, what we know is that the club face is close to the direction he's swinging it. Really, that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of having so much really good technology available to us, like the OnForm app, is that we can now turn this into binary equations. There is no debate that if the ball is curving left, the face is pointed left of where the swing is headed. That's simple.
Mm-hmm.
So as a coach, I'm straight away wanting to explore all of the components that may result in a left shot. And I would always be looking at setup first of all. Basically, it sounds slightly cliched, but what's happening at impact, which in the trade we refer to that as P7, what's happening at impact is generally a product of what's happening at address, which is P1. So the first thing I'm looking at here is
Hugh. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you speak on that a little more, because I feel like that is very hard for to comprehend in the sense, maybe not comprehend is not the right word, but just to look at someone standing here and telling me this thing has a lot to do with my position and impact. Like, explain that.
well,
Like,
basically,
what does that mean? I mean, yeah.
as human beings, we function in space all the time, and what setup does for you, what your start position does for you, is it predetermines the impact geometry, so where the club is in space, and it also predetermines the movement options that are available to that player.
Huge, yes.
Now,
huge.
That's not to say that every player is going to take those movement options, but I think it's folly for us to try and get a player to move differently if their start position will not accommodate that new move. So
yeah, you're asking them to do something that it's going to be very difficult to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what we got to look at here is, number one, what shot does Thomas want to hit? Does he want to hit a draw? Does he want to fade it?
No, I think he likes to hit a little draw,
yeah.
If he could, yeah.
So when we look at the start position, there's a couple of things that sort of drawn me to, or has caught my eye. The first thing is that I think his golf clubs are either too upright, or his shaft position at address is not appropriate. So the more upright, so basically the greater the angle between the hosel and the sole of the club, that flattens it, and as soon as that becomes more acute, that becomes more upright. The more upright the club becomes, the face points more left. Now, this is actually quite a good environment to have this conversation, because I'm not trying to sell anyone golf clubs here. I'm not trying to make money out of that. But the first thing I'd be looking at is, are Thomas's clubs appropriate? And I suspect they're probably a little bit too upright for him.
Okay.
Now, the reason I say that is that one of the first things I look at is where the shaft is pointed relative to the player's belly button.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that shaft is maybe a hair low, but I'm much more drawn to the fact that I think the clubs are a little bit too upright for him. And for all of your subscribers here, Erik, this is a really important thing. It is fundamental that your golf clubs fit you and your golf swing. Because if these clubs are too upright, and I try and improve Thomas's impact, he will always continue to hit it left. Always.
Can't get around it.
Yeah. So that'd be the first thing I look at. The second thing I look at in terms of shot face is how the player A, holds the club, and B, presents their arms. Now, I think Thomas has alluded in his messaging with you that he felt his lead hand, his glove hand grip was too strong. Now, although this camera angle is a little funky from front on, I would argue that it's his trail hand that's too strong.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can see just a little bit of shape in here. And the V between thumb and forefinger is pointing way outside of his right shoulder.
Yeah.
So now we have two components that we're potentially hitting it left: the lie angle of the club and the way the player is gripping it in the right hand.
Would you say the right or left hand has more influence on that, or do you look at them equally? When you look at shutting the face, do you look at equally or?
Generally, I look at them in isolation, and I mean, I know that you and I have talked about this at length, that I do consider where the arms are positioned from a sort of external internal rotation perspective. I do consider that more important than where the hands are, but obviously there's a correlation between the two.
Okay.
So I think the big thing that we'd be looking to look at here, first of all, Thomas, my best advice is go and try a club that is 2 degrees flatter. And if you don't see the ball curve left, I will eat your hat. I will refund. I will refund the free golf lesson that I'm giving you. because there's that to me just screams left, left, left. And then you combine where the club is sat on the ground with where the right arm is, where the trail arm is, and we've now got at least two things that are encouraging a left shot.
Okay.
Now, I've hopefully explained why I think the equipment fit is so important, but we can't expect progress from a player with equipment that doesn't help.
So just in general, are you, I guess, for somebody looking at their setup like this, is this the best determinant, or what is going to be your best determinant, or the easiest way, I guess, somebody can look at their clubs and tell?
Basically is to use a line 'em up, the putting line that you put in the golf ball.
Yep.
Stand that up vertically and hit the line. If that line at the point of impact should be perpendicular to the grooves.
Yeah.
Dead easy.
Okay.
So as a baseline, for the trail hand grip, I would be looking for the V between thumb and forefinger to be pointed anywhere between the right shoulder and the right ear. Just now, we see Thomas with it way outside of that.
Yeah.
I would like to see that shifted to here, which I think is probably going to mean that he has to hold it just a little bit more in the fingers of his right hand.
Okay.
So when you see this, the area I touched on a minute ago, which is the amount of curve in here, that's generally a sign that the player is holding it too much in the palm of the hand.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Now, again, simple ways to explore that. It could be that your grip thickness is too great. It could be that it's just how you've chosen to hold the club. But not only does that prevent consistent application of the face, it's also something that could prevent you creating leverage, which is a major part of how much speed you're able to create.
I think it's huge. Yeah. That's really, yeah. Okay, cool. And you'll probably get into a little more of that when we show impact, I'm sure. But
so when we look at the impact, and I'll go straight to impact, and I'm just going to sync these swings up. So
this is what's interesting here too, and I'm sorry to cut you off, and I know you well, so I know what you're doing. So you go from P1. This isn't just because you're doing this for show. This is the next place you go to look.
This is 100%. I'm constantly cross-referencing point of impact, P7 versus point 1.
Yeah, you're not going to the takeaway to see why that happened right there immediately. No. Yeah. Okay.
And the reason I do that is really simple. That I think it's a lot easier for the majority of players to make what I would call a static change, a setup change, than it is to make an. And as you're well aware, my entire coaching principle is based around making what I would believe to be the least invasive intervention.
Yes.
What's the simplest?
Which doesn't mean it's easy. Which I would say it's the simplest, but it's also I think people just go, oh well, that's the simple way. It's not. I mean, it's getting to these things that make the swing function better without you making adjustments, I guess, or having to fight just these things. But yeah.
The truth of the matter is really simple, that we all talk about how important setup is. Yeah, every single golf lesson I see people giving, or bad golf lesson, ignores start position.
So yeah, 100%.
And I think, again, if you're looking for a detail, one of the details between good coaching and great coaching is that the great coaching is in the detail, as being able to identify the relevant detail. Because let's face it, Thomas stands to the golf ball pretty well. There's not much to dislike about this. This is a very sound start position. But when you start to dig just a little bit deeper, there's definitely things that could help him hit better shots, really simply. So I'd be starting there, and then as I'm constantly cross-referencing what's happening at point of impact versus what's happening at start position. We know from the ball flight that there is something in this player's impact that is causing the golf ball to go left. In my coaching process, that's really simple. I know, there is no doubt, there's no argument here. If the ball is curving left, the club face is shut to the direction you're swinging it. And we cannot dispute that. So straight away, my eye is now going to the things that I know close the club face.
Yep.
So we could, you know what, you're flipping it. That's why it's turning left.
Right.
I wish I knew what flipping meant. I genuinely wish I could come up with a definition for that. But this is really simple. If I'm stood with Thomas in the range and he has not hit the ball straight or curving right within the first 3 balls, I'm gonna kick myself.
Yeah.
My brain is straight away looking at the things that could cause this to go left. I mean, I'm not looking at whether he's flipping it or what is causing this to go left. Really freaking simple.
Yeah.
The face is closed because the clubs are too upright and because the right hand grip is too strong.
Fix those, the changes.
Yeah. And you can see now that as Thomas travels through backswing phase, he's got the face pointed to the sky at this point.
So that would be pretty close.
So
or
that would be closed.
Some would say. Okay. Yeah.
That's going to be, the more the face points at the sky, the more closed it is relative to the swing. Now, when you start to see Thomas come down, and this would be my next measure, he does a great deal of good to hit a draw shot. So where
because
that
of the steepness right there, are you saying? Or
where that shaft is lined up at that's P5, where the left arm's parallel, is really, really good for a draw. And if you look at where the sweet spot starts to travel in this phase, the sweet spot is traveling down the bottom line.
Yeah.
That is really good for a draw. The problem is his face is really good for a fade. His face is way, way, way too sharp. And
say that part again about his face is for a fade. Repeat that part.
His face is, you can see here how much the face is pointed down.
Yeah.
So while the shaft is in good position, his rib cage, his body's in great position for a draw. You can see how turned down that face is, which means it's going to turn way too much left. It's going to start straight, then turn left. When you start to look at the way he moves through impact, Thomas moves exceptionally well through impact, really exceptionally well.
Yeah, he does move well. Yep.
I mean, this is from this face down, it's exceptionally good, bar the fact that the club face is closed. Exceptionally good.
What influence, like when we look at him, if you just go to P6 or right around, what would you say when you start seeing these elbow separation? Is this happening based on club face issues, or what would you say when you start seeing what? I guess I always look at these absolutes, and you look at professionals, you see their elbow distance staying closer together. You see amateurs start getting further apart. What's the influence? I mean, obviously, we don't just want to start pulling apart. The influences of this little bend there, and it looks like he's still bent, almost like you can see the hanging on with the left side too, right? Like, yeah.
Which I think is him. Which I think is Thomas trying to fight the club face.
Yeah. Yep.
Pretty sure
so
that if he's got the face toe up here. So for a draw, I like where the shaft is for a draw, but the face is too much that way. I'd want the face, the leading edge, vertical at this point for a draw. If he can do that, and let's just double check how far.
Now, is that for all players or for just his specific swing?
For draw players. So he's probably got the face 12, 13 degrees too shut at that point. So if you start to look at golf swings are, every golfer wants to produce a desired shot. And that means that the club has to be in certain space. So as a golf coach, I think a reasonably expert golf coach, as a golf coach, if you had just shown me these two pictures, nothing else, I don't even need to see what happens from this point on. I can tell you that this ball is going to curve left too much.
Too much. Yeah.
Why? Because the face is too freaking closed. That's simple.
Somebody would say, what if he had more lean into it?
I don't think he's
into impact. No, I'm not saying he's not, but what if if the thought comes across someone's mind of that, could that be a fix or no? That still wouldn't be enough?
No, I don't think so. It would depend very much on the player.
Yeah.
That if you were to lean players who've got the face too open, if you were to lean the shaft more, they'd probably hit it further right. So
Yeah.
if I'm looking at Thomas here through the impact phase from front on, he's got more than enough lean. He's actually
Yeah.
using it to stop him hitting it left.
Yeah.
So the more the shaft leans forward at impact, the more the face points right. The more the shaft leans back at impact, the more the face points left. Which is why you see slicers coming in with an open face, having shaft leaning back, because they're then trying to square the face by leaning the shaft back.
It's almost like they have more time to close it then or something by staying back. Yeah. Can you go back to impact again real quick? And if you just look at impact with him, how does is there a way for somebody to look at their swing and say, I have enough shaft lean or I don't? How do you diagnose it at impact?
So very simply, I'm going to put shaft lean or shaft line at address.
Mm-hmm.
First principle, I've never ever seen a good player lean the shaft less at impact or more at impact than they do at address. Every player leans it more at impact, who's any good.
They more impact than address.
Yes.
Okay. And he did
Thomas has done a great job there. And generally what you'll see is that round about here, the shaft, a straight line up the shaft into the middle of the grip will go through his left shoulder, which it does. Everything about the way Thomas leans the club is appropriate.
Awesome.
If he were to lean the club more to fight the left shot, which is an option, he would struggle to get it airborne. He might hit lots of good shots, but they'd come out like bullets.
Just slow. Yeah. Okay. Love it. Anything else, or make these are the two, and we'll look at it again at some point, or
Again, in my own coaching, I've had 3 clients today. 2 of them, and all my clients come for 2 hours. 2 of them, we spent 2 hours working in start position, and all of them improved straight away by improving start position. We don't just work in the start position, though. We'll take it to the next phase, which is developing pre-shot routines to master the new start position. And then we'll run through a process that gets them to hit at different targets with different clubs. Again, going through that routine to ensure that the good stuff sticks. But I'm very much a believer that, and I learned this from a dear friend of mine, a guy called Graham Walker, who coaches Tommy Fleetwood, has been a massively successful coach. He actually coaches the guy that won on the DP World Tour, Paul Waring at the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got this wonderful expression, which is the player has to earn the right to progress.
The player has to earn the right to progress, meaning get a good setup.
You don't get this good, we ain't going to be C, D, or E.
Yeah.
Because he knows the importance of setup in terms of determining the swing geometry and determining the movement options. If the player shows evidence that they have nailed that, then we can move on to the next bit.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that, once again, how you see the difference between amateurs and pros, and you can speak on this. But the great difference, the pros are going to spend that time working on that stuff. Amateurs don't seem to find or want to spend as much time on that.
It's I think maybe slightly crude, but it's just not sexy enough for a lot of people. And that's not just amateurs. There's a lot of tour pros that would struggle with that. But then if you look at the really successful ones, Scotty Scheffler is just a wonderful example just now, and he's so diligent about his start position.
Yeah.
The majority of the top level players that we watch on television, look how detailed their routines are. Look how diligent they are about nailing their start position.
Yep. Yep. There's a story I love from years ago when, back in the days when the tour actually took time off in the winter, when they came back in time, Nicholas and Grout would spend 2 weeks getting ready. And the first week was spent all on, setup, like things of rolling the ankles, body movement, just these things that you think, oh, and alignment, all these little things that people are like, oh, wow, he still works on that. Yes, he does.
Yeah. It's funny. I've got I think a lot of this is the fault of the coaching environment and the coaching culture, that we've got to be seen to be giving people lots of information, and that to me is interpreting the dynamic entirely incorrectly. That players come to you to get better. My obligation is to help that player get better. I'm not going to tell the doctor what medicine to prescribe me. I'm going to trust that he's going to give me the right medicine in the right dose, the right frequency.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to golf coaching, our job fundamentally is to improve every one of our golfers. This is the foundation of every golf swing. I had a tour pro who actually won the challenge, or finished second in challenge tour this year, a guy called John Parry. And he came down to see me last year, and he's a rare breed in that he just comes for the occasional golf lesson, not unlike Jack Nicklaus. Hellish good player, played Walker Cup, he's won on tour, but he lives up in the north of England. He drove for 6 hours to come and see me for a 2-hour session. And he comes down, and all we did was work on start position and start lines. That was it. Absolutely.
2 hours.
For 2 hours. And then he got back, or drove 6 hours to go north. And one of his friends, who's a pro up there, teaching pro up there, had said, right, what you've been working on with Hugh? And he goes, oh, I just needed to shift ball position. And he goes, you drove 6 hours, 12 hours total to be told you need to move your ball position. And you're happy with that? And he went, yeah, I'm entirely happy with that, because I left flushing it. He actually won 2 weeks later.
Oh, so
but the coach's, the friend of his that's a coach, his response I found was quite illuminating. It's like, well, surely there's more you need to do.
Yeah.
Now,
surely.
we never ever each reach the end of the road with a golf swing. There's always something to do.
Always.
Whether it's circling back round to just tidying up start position, or whether it's working on the progression stuff within the golf swing. But fundamentally, if you cannot get this bit right, and remember, right isn't the same for everyone. If you want to hit a fade, the conversation we've just had is very, very different.
Correct.
But if you can't get the start position appropriate for what you want to do in the golf swing, then please do not go on YouTube and spend your life trying to find golf swing solutions.
That's interesting. I wonder if you took all the YouTube videos and you looked at everything in search volume or however it is, and talk about the different setups you need basically for draw, fade, whatever it is, what that's searched for versus and how many are made out there, how many videos versus shallowing and everything else.
I can save your subscribers the effort. They just need to go to my Instagram page and we'll see it all there.
Yeah. Okay. Thomas, so I'd say you got your work cut out, but it's not, I mean, I'd say simple things that me knowing you personally, I know you can handle, and I look forward to seeing these changes when you make them, and we'll go from there. So thank you, Hugh. Now I have some questions from the group. So this is from Scott Monroe. Scott's played I think Scott's in his early 60s now. He played some professional stuff when he was younger. Very good swing, but he wants some thoughts from you. He said, I would be interested in your thoughts of how the mental game of elite players has evolved over the years. It seems mental coaching hit mainstream in the 90s with Rotella books, although I'm sure it's been around much longer, but just not really talked about. He said he's also curious on somehow TrackMan numbers have worked their way into pre-swing thoughts. Pre-TrackMan, I would try to hit shots higher and lower with no clue of how they would fly. But do elite players now think they want to hit their shots 70, 80, 90, 100 feet in the air? So basically two things. Mental game of elite players evolved over the years, of how you think it's changed. And then basically now that we know all this stuff, TrackMan, are players thinking really different about this or not?
No. I think mental coaching has evolved a great deal, certainly in Europe. But I know there's some real specialists in the States, like Rick Sessinghaus is an extraordinary coach. All that's different is we've got technology that helps us make better judgment calls. So I have used something called Mushband, which is basically measures brainwave activity, and it's something that's quite commonplace in the professional game. which is basically trying to, it's effectively able to measure how active the brain is and how focused the golfer is on a specific thing. And there are more and more psychologists. There's 3 or 4 in Europe that I've worked with over the years who actively use the technology. I don't think the actual coaching of it's changed much, in that we've just understand more because of technology, but actually the skill of coaching it is much the same. Now, maybe this is doing Dr. Bob a disservice, but I think his books are some of the best golf instruction books ever written, because ultimately the coaching skills that he advocates through these stories are still the coaching skills that we'd use today. We just understand more of why they work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then when it comes to your question about TrackMan, again, I think that TrackMan as a tool, I'm an ambassador for TrackMan. I've been a user of it for a dozen years. It's helped me become a better coach. Technology is primarily a coach's tool. It helps us understand what we communicate or what we coach better. Does it fundamentally change how we coach? In my instance, I don't think so. I just know I know impact much better than I did 15 years ago. Much better.
You understand it. You understand it better.
Yeah. Without wishing to sound conceited, I'm pretty sure there's not 5 people on earth that understand impact better than I do, and that's because of my relationship with TrackMan.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, it's there. Well, how, I don't know. I can't remember how small that number is, how little contact there is between the ball and face, how quick it is. But that little moment in time is how your ball ends up where it is, right?
5 milliseconds.
It's not. Yeah. So I've always thought, this is, I'm going to throw something here. This is the thing. This is what is always, and I try to explain to people, that blows me away in golf and you don't need a TrackMan for this. And I've done some videos on YouTube about this, about being on TrackMan, but how few people know ball flight. And now, and I'm just talking, I'm not talking expert level like you, I'm talking path and face. So most golfers out there, I don't know what the number is, but I have a great guess. It's got to be amateurs. Over 95% of them look at a shot and have no clue why the ball did what it did, and blame their hips or shoulder or head or something on why the ball went right or left or whatever.
That's no wonder, because most coaches don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth of the matter
would you really say still most don't know? Is that where we're at?
They don't understand it sufficiently. It's like giving your GP, your general practitioner doctor, it's like giving him open heart surgery.
Yeah.
He might know how the heart works. He might have a rough idea what to do, but you wouldn't be trusting him to give you a triple bypass, would you?
No. I just think it's so important to know stuff, because when you're out there playing golf, you hit a shot you don't like, and to me, it's always been freeing to have the answer, instead of just out there and have no clue. Like we grew up, we didn't know. Well, maybe we did know somebody was wrong about why the ball curved the way it did, but and what we came up with to figure it out, it worked. But the point is that to be out there on the golf course and hit, let's say you overfade it, you move it too much to the right of the pin. Like it's a simple fix when you're playing golf, of get that face a little more closed, and to think people are out there, they have no idea of, oh shoot, that one I didn't twist my hips enough or whatever, where it's like, no, just close that face a little more and you got it fixed.
I mean, again, to go back to Scott's question, Scott, wasn't it?
Thomas.
So to go back
to Scott, I'm sorry, geez, you're better than me, sorry. Scott.
I'm younger than you.
Yeah, you are, that's right.
I think, to go back to Scott's question, that TrackMan as a player's tool has been very good for developing a player's feel. And feel is, I mean, everyone talks about feel not being real. That's complete BS, because
that's an interesting one. Talk about that a bit.
Well, the one thing that the great players take to the golf course is feel. So you can't tell them that it's not real. Well, if they feel X and it does the right thing with the golf ball, then that is very real for them.
It's real for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think that it's given a much more effective feedback loop for golfers of all standards, and used correctly for players, it will definitely make them better. Are the players looking to achieve 90 feet specifically? Probably not. They're looking to say, well, I'm going to hit it high. or I'm going to hit it
Yeah.
low. I don't think that's changed. But they now know what their high and their low is. They now know, I mean, all of the players that I've been able to work with over the years, they've been able to call their impact data pretty quickly. So
Be able to call it. They
yeah,
give you the numbers. Yeah.
so they're able to. Funnily enough, I was coaching a guy this afternoon who's a very good player, and he said, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, so I know what we're going to see is the path being too far right and there's not enough attack angle. And guess what?
Yeah.
The path was too far right and there wasn't enough attack angle. So he was able to correlate what he was feeling in the golf swing with specific numbers. It
Which
helps
is
the
awesome.
feels.
Should an average golfer understand that if you are too far to the right, you are going to have, well, I guess if you anything on the ground, your attack angle is going to possibly be a little suffering if you get too far into out. Do they need to understand that? Or do they just need to understand curvature basically and start line?
I think, yeah, I mean, I would think, first of all, curvature.
Yeah. Why the ball curves.
Yeah, because that's still the majority of established golfers get the ball in the air and hit something of a functional shot that's just curving too much one way or the other. So I would say that curvature is probably the first thing to understand.
This is one thing I've thought forever, but maybe this was golf clubs should have a huge warning on it that tells people your face is where the ball starts it. Because somehow intuitively our body thinks it's path for most people. And I feel like I've been fortunate to see a couple brand new golfers. I'm talking brand new, first time they ever had a stick in their hand, have beautiful, what I thought beautiful swings to start off, maybe 2 or 3 path out to the right and just blow the ball way to the right. Within 5 swings, had a path 11 to the left, and we're happy with it. And we're happy with the shot because it wasn't a million miles to the right anymore. So intuitively they went that way and started down the path of that. But if they knew it was face, maybe things would have been different.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I think that first golf lesson is amongst the most important ones.
I agree. And and I think it's another thing in the industry that is wrong is, and I talk to people like, oh, Erica, you're too professional or I just need to go someone that's just not as expert as you because it's my first lesson or whatever. I just need some clinics or something. Like, well, I would argue that it's the most important lessons you're going to have are these beginning ones when you're shaping.
Yeah, I mean, it's a general rule of thumb. If you find a golf coach that says I'd like to keep things really simple, they are either exceptionally good golf coaches because they understand things to such a high level that they can simplify it appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Or then you've got the guy that likes to keep things really simple because he knows nothing.
Yeah. You're going to know the difference though, the student. You're going to know
Correct.
Yeah. Let's get this. Let's see here. Let's wrap it up with this one here. So here is Sam. I worked with Sam strictly online. And what does Hugh recommend for ball position and stance with width from wedge shots to a driver? He goes, I know Eric mentioned in my program to flare the lead foot open for chip shots and keep your feet about a club. He says club length width apart. I think he meant club face for chipping. I believe he also mentioned at the bottom or in my program to drop your trail foot back slightly when swinging the driver. I understand a lot of this depends on the type of shot you may be trying to hit, but I'm always interested in any sort of setup recommendations or routines. Okay. And I'll just say really quickly why I've mentioned the foot back a little bit for the right, and that's swing geometry for people. Trying when we're swinging, and I'll let you just talk about that instead of people hearing me some more. But
so the simple answer to your question is it depends. I cannot give you a binary answer for every single golfer or a binary answer that applies to every single golfer. But what I can say is that if you have a preference for a draw shot, your ball, shaft, handle position needs to be very different to someone who prefers a fade.
mm-hmm.
Impact is a geometric equation. It's geometry and physics. Now, my personal preference is that the ball position does not change relative to the sternum and the lead shoulder for any shot that is hit off the ground.
So you like to see it placed where?
What shot shape do you want to hit?
So let's go draw. I'm going to say most people like to draw it.
So for draw, my preference would be to have the back of the ball, so the ball away from the target, the ball side away from the target, directly underneath the sternum. If I want the player to fade it,
yeah,
I want the front of the ball underneath the left armpit.
okay. And this is geometry again, right? Of how
geometry.
that club's going to come into it, right?
This is just geometry. And yes, you have, these are not absolutes. They're baselines that give you this kind of little spectrum to work within.
Yeah.
But I can't possibly say that you, Erik, you need to set up to it the same way as me. We're different body types. We swing it differently. We have different movement characteristics. We have different shot preferences. All of this needs to be taken into account. But what I can say is that if you get the template that works for you, you stick with that all the time.
Yeah, if you get it, yeah. Which is it. Yeah, but I think, and that's the thing. I think it's spectrums we talk about, and I've heard you talk about it, and Andreas talks about spectrums. I've talked to him a little bit about it too. But just there's two sides. It's just I don't know if you want to look at anomalies or whatever, but there are different ways to do things, and I think it's I think we need to quit looking so much at professionals too, because these guys are not the regular golfer. They move different. They're maybe they're elite athlete. They're trained different. I mean, these guys are seeing physios. Their bodies are in meticulous shape. They're eating good, most of them. I mean, it's and it's different. I mean, it wasn't like that a long time ago. I mean, the golfers, if you go back and watch some TV from maybe the 90s, golfers on the pro tour looked like the regular population. And pot bellies
But
and smoking.
I'd also argue that while they looked like the regular population, what happens at impact doesn't have an opinion.
No.
If you've got Jack Nicklaus's ball flight versus Tom Weiskopf's ball flight versus Tiger's ball flight, you cannot produce. You need to have impact factors A to produce shot A, impact factors B to produce shot B. You can't have impact factors A and not have it produce a specific shot. If I give you some impact factors, you'll be able to tell me to the yard what that golf ball has done.
Yeah.
There is no opinion when it comes to impact.
That's what I love. That's where we're at. I know that's where we're at now. It's physics, right? It is. We know the answers.
Golfers will benefit because of it, Erik.
Yeah.
Which is all that matters.
Yeah, making golfers better. And I know you've talked about this a lot, and there's this thing out there about golf. It's go have fun playing golf. I just don't know many golfers that have fun topping it. I don't know many golfers have fun hitting fat golf shots, right? They may say it, but no, you know what? And these are things like you get some decent coaching, improve your impact factors, and improve setup. Like it can become more fun. Anybody can. I'm a big believer. I know you are too. Everybody can become a decent ball striker. You're going to miss it left. You're going to miss it right for sure. You don't have to hit it fat. You don't have to top it. And you can also understand why you blew that ball way to the right. I mean, these aren't things that are, to me, really hard. Like they're
no, it's not hard. I think making change is easy. Getting change to stick is hard.
Sure.
And that's why a lot of golfers basically go through this sort of continual cycle of never getting better, because just sticking at the same thing and getting really good at the same thing isn't necessarily stimulating. And if things don't go well initially, then the human brain is it's wired to go and look for plan B or plan C or plan D. But when plan B, C, D, and E are not educated, not organized, not specific to the student, then you definitely aren't going to get better. I do know that.
Yep. Okay. Thank you everybody for your questions. Appreciate it. Hugh, I can't thank you enough for this and all your wisdom that you've given us. And I know everybody's going to be super excited about it. I can sit here and talk to you. I think you already know for the next 6 hours, but I know it's getting late there. But guess what? Can we do it again?
I'd love to.
Point?
Thank you, Erik. I enjoyed every minute of it. So it's more
thank
than
you.
It's a pleasure to work with you, but it's also a pleasure to help the golfers in your community. And I'm excited to see that community grow because you're doing some great work here.
Thank you, Hugh. I appreciate you. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
All righty. That was fun. That was good.
Happy with that?
You're good.